We have covered so much of human experience tonight. And who knows what's coming next, because it is the wonderful Richard O'Leary.
When I was a child growing up in Cork in the 1970s, I was a little bundle of nerves. A small boy who was often frightened, worried, or nervous about something. At times, I had nerves about competitive sport. At other times, about religion. On this occasion, it was a combination of my nerves about sport and religion. It was April 1974 at my primary school, Claheen National School. That was the day our headmaster, who we called Roundy, because he was big and round, came into our classroom to make an announcement. Roundy announced that our school would be entering Cork's annual primary school sports day. Our rural school had less than 90 pupils, and medals won by our school at the Cork Sports Day were as rare as medals won by Ireland at the Olympics. Roundy said every pupil would have to run in what he called trials to select the fastest boys and girls to represent our school. The thought of competitive trials did not appeal to me. In my class of 9-year-old boys, there was Tony Reardon. Tony was bigger and stronger than me, and at various times during every school day, Tony would thump me on my back. Now I was being told to compete in a race against my tormentor. That afternoon, class group after class group was taken by Roundy out of the classroom and onto the main road. We called it the main road, but in those years in the countryside, there was hardly any traffic on it. So Roundy simply used the main road as our running track. Roundy marked on the road with chalk the finish line, and he instructed us that when he dropped his raised hand, we were to run as fast as we could until we reached him at the finish line. There I was at the starting line to compete in a competitive race. Naturally, I was a bundle of nerves. So I did what I always do in these moments of crisis in my childhood. I appealed to my mother. No, not my human mother. What would she be able to do in this situation? This childhood crisis required supernatural intervention. I called on Holy Mary, the Mother of Jesus. At the starting line, I said a prayer. This prayer: Dear Holy Mary, please do not let me come in last. Roundy dropped his raised hand and we were off. I ran as fast as I could, faster than I'd ever run in my life. I sensed I was pulling ahead of Tony Reardon. As I reached the finishing line, I raised my arms and swept past Roundy and shuddered to a halt. Tony Reardon arrived after me, panting like an exhausted bull. Roundy came up to me, beaming, and he said, "You'll definitely be going to the city sports. You could do well for our school." I was delighted, but my joy did not last for long. By that evening, my achievement no longer made me feel better. It made me feel worse. I was now worried, how would I meet Roundy's expectations? Such was my sense of burden that I embarked on a desperate course of action. This involved me persuading my older brother by paying him some of my meager pocket money to become my trainer. He advised me that I needed to train on grass. This being the countryside, we had plenty of grass, but it was mostly in hilly fields. The only flat field, about 300 yards from our home, was a field on the Lee Road. The field in front of the huge public shrine to Holy Mary, known as Our Lady. This shrine, arriving at the field, I glanced up at the statue of Our Lady looming above me. Above her head was a giant halo of lights in the shape of a heart, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Below her, in the field, I was expected to train. My brother ignored my complaints, that the grass was 6 inches high, that the field was dotted with thistles, and that I had to run while dodging patches of cow dung. Furthermore, knowing that Our Lady was watching me made me feel self-conscious. I did worry, was it disrespectful to be running up and down in front of Our Lady? Might it bring me bad luck? I decided it wouldn't, but I resolved not to tell my devout Catholic mother, lest she thought otherwise. I looked up at the statue of Our Lady, and I said to her, Our Lady, if you help me to win a medal at the sports, I promise you, I will return here to this shrine and recite 50 decades of the rosary. The help of Our Lady doesn't come cheap. As I'd stopped training in the field, at dusk, the lights in the shape of a giant heart around the statue of Our Lady would flicker into a low red glow. On the day of the sports, Roundy collected me from our house on the Lee Road, and he drove us in his car to the Mardyke Sports Ground. The grounds were thronged with hundreds of child competitors and teachers from schools from all over the county. I huddled with my school group, bewildered by the noise and the mayhem. Occasionally, Roundy would appear and drag a child away, presumably to join a race. I was on my own. I didn't really know what was going on, and I wandered off. I was, of course, a bundle of nerves. Suddenly, Roundy pounced on me. He was furious and shouted, "Cuckoo! Cuckoo!" What did he mean? Roundy said to me, "You silly boy, you've missed your race." The next day at school, I felt so embarrassed. Roundy thanked all the children who had participated in the races. I knew this did not include me. Nor did Our Lady get her 50 decades of the rosary. 1 year later, at Cloughey National School, it was again the day of the trials to select who would represent our school. Once again, I was lined up on the main road, a bundle of nerves. But I again won the trial. My brother agreed to train me, and we returned to the same field in front of this giant statue of Our Lady. The grass was again too high, with thistles and cow dung. That year, on returning to the sports ground at the Mardyke for the competition in 1975, I was determined that I would at least this time get to run my race. I pestered the adults around me to make sure I made it to the starting line for the race for 10-year-old boys. This time, I lined up with boys I did not know. They looked bigger than me and eager to win. I thought of the statue of Our Lady on the Lee Road. I said to myself, Our Lady, if you help me to win a medal, I promise you I will return to your shrine and recite 50 decades of the rosary. Then I heard a starter's gun. The starting gun rattled my nerves, but I shot off, following the other boys. I ran like my life depended on it. It was all over in seconds. An adult grabbed me by the shoulder. The adult told me I had won a medal. This medal. The medal is gold in color, and in the center it has an engraved image of a runner. I was so happy that I even relieved temporarily of my nerves. I have never since resumed competitive sport. As I emerged from childhood into adulthood, I also got better at managing my nerves. I paid my debt of rosaries to Our Lady, and for the past 40 years, I've been debt-free.
Oh, Richard. Oh, that's brilliant. I have to say, I'm surprised Protestants ever win anything when you've got advantages like 50, an offer of a bribe, I think would be a better word, 50 rosaries. Gosh almighty, that's amazing. It's like what Patrick would do in an afternoon.
Was it cheaper up the north?
Well, yeah, I don't think we'd have gone to 50. I think that would have been a push. Maybe, three Hail Marys and Our Father and maybe a Glory Be. I've been a bit ahead of it. Apologies to anyone who's not familiar with Catholic nonsense. Oh, sorry, I mean Catholic tradition. But there you go. Thank you so much, Richard. Absolute joy as always, and good to see a prop coming out finally at the end there. I wondered if we were going to. I wondered if we were going to wheel on Roundy or something. But thank you so much. And quite an impressive grotto, actually. Very elaborate headdress on the Virgin.
Yeah, it was 1950s for the marrying year.
Oh, right. I was expecting a more straightforward kind of Bernadette and Our Lady type thing,
but to our disappointment, in the 1980s, our statue did not move. Like Bandsplitter.
Believe it or not, Padraig has a story about that, but I'll let him tell that. So anyway, I just thank you so much. What a wonderful evening, folks. What an absolute joy to see so many of you.